The morning sun cast long shadows across the Naval Special Warfare Training Compound in Coronado, California. Among the sea of muscular, battle-hardened men preparing for another grueling day of advanced combat training stood Maya Rodriguez, her 5'4" frame seeming almost fragile against the backdrop of towering Navy SEALs. She adjusted her tactical gear with practiced precision, ignoring the sideways glances and whispered comments that had become as routine as her morning coffee. Maya had earned her place here through years of dedication in the Marine Corps, where she had excelled in every combat scenario thrown her way. Her record spoke volumes: 3 tours in Afghanistan, countless successful missions, and a reputation for tactical brilliance that had caught the attention of the special operations community. Yet, despite her credentials, she found herself constantly proving her worth in a world that seemed determined to doubt her capabilities. The skepticism wasn't entirely unexpected. The Navy SEALs had only recently opened certain roles to women, and Maya was among the first to qualify for their elite training programs. She understood the resistance came from a place of tradition and concern for unit cohesion, but understanding didn't make the daily challenges any easier to bear. As she walked toward the training facility, snippets of conversation reached her ears.
That's all about the battery.
"She's too small for this kind of work," muttered one SEAL to another. "What happens when she needs to carry a wounded teammate twice her size?" The comments weren't malicious, but they reflected a genuine concern about physical limitations that Maya had spent her entire military career overcoming. Lieutenant Commander Jake Sullivan, the lead instructor for the Advanced Combat Course, noticed Maya's arrival with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Sullivan was a legend in the SEAL community, with over 15 years of operational experience and a reputation for being one of the toughest instructors in the program. He had trained hundreds of elite warriors, but Maya represented something new and uncertain in his structured world. "Listen up, everyone," Sullivan announced as the group assembled in the main training hall. The space was intimidating, filled with various combat training equipment, mats for hand-to-hand combat, and walls lined with weapons of every description. "Today we're focusing on advanced close-quarters combat techniques. These skills could mean the difference between coming home alive and not coming home at all." Maya positioned herself among the group, acutely aware that all eyes seemed to drift toward her whenever Sullivan spoke about physical confrontations or strength-based scenarios. She had learned to channel this attention into motivation, using doubt as fuel for her determination to excel. The first exercise involved basic grappling techniques. Partner against partner. Maya was paired with Petty Officer Marcus Thompson, a mountain of a man who stood nearly a foot taller and outweighed her by at least 80 pounds. Thompson approached the exercise with visible reluctance, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of engaging in physical combat with a woman, regardless of her military credentials.
"I don't want to hurt you," Thompson whispered as they prepared to begin.
His concern was genuine, but Maya recognized the underlying assumption that she was somehow more fragile than her male counterparts.
"Focus on the technique, not on me," Maya replied firmly.
"I'm here for the same reason you are." When Sullivan gave the signal to begin, Maya immediately demonstrated why she had earned her place in the program. Using leverage and technique rather than brute force, she systematically countered Thompson's advances, turning his size advantage against him. Within minutes, she had executed a perfect takedown that left the larger man sprawled on the mat, looking up at her in surprise. The room fell silent for a moment before Sullivan's voice cut through the tension. "Technique over strength," he said, though his tone carried a note of surprise. Rodriguez just demonstrated a perfect example of why we focus on skill development rather than raw power. As the morning progressed, Maya continued to impress with her technical proficiency and tactical awareness. However, she could sense the underlying skepticism that persisted among many of her fellow trainees. They acknowledged her skills, but seemed to view them as exceptions rather than evidence of her overall capability. During a break between exercises, Maya overheard a conversation that crystallized the challenge she faced. 2 SEALs were discussing her performance in hushed tones near the water station.
"She's definitely skilled,"
one admitted. "But combat isn't just about technique. It's about endurance, carrying heavy loads, dragging wounded teammates to safety. Can she really handle that when bullets are flying?" "I don't know," the other replied. "She's impressive in a controlled environment, but real combat is different. Lives depend on everyone pulling their weight." Maya pretended not to hear, but the conversation reinforced her understanding that earning respect would require more than just demonstrating technical proficiency. She needed to prove herself in ways that went beyond the structured exercises they had practiced so far. The afternoon brought weapons training, an area where Maya had always excelled. Her marksmanship scores were consistently among the highest in any group she trained with, and her understanding of various weapon systems was encyclopedic. As they moved through drills with different firearms, Maya's confidence grew with each perfect shot placement. Sullivan watched her performance with increasing interest. He had trained enough warriors to recognize genuine talent when he saw it, and Maya's consistency was undeniable. Yet he also understood the concerns of his other students. The transition to fully integrated units was still new, and questions about physical standards and combat effectiveness remained hotly debated topics throughout the special operations community.
Rodriguez, Sullivan called out as they prepared for the final exercise of the day.
You'll be demonstrating defensive pistol techniques for the group. Maya stepped forward, understanding that this was both an opportunity and a test. The exercise required her to engage multiple targets while moving through a complex course designed to simulate urban combat scenarios. As she prepared her weapon and reviewed the course layout, she was acutely aware that every SEAL in the room was watching her performance with critical eyes. The course itself was challenging, requiring split-second decisions, precise shot placement, and fluid movement through various obstacles. Maya approached it with the same methodical preparation she brought to every challenge. She visualized the course, identified potential problem areas, and developed a strategy that would maximize her strengths while minimizing exposure to her perceived weaknesses. When Sullivan gave the signal to begin, Maya moved through the course like a force of nature. Her shots were precise, her movement economical, and her tactical decisions flawless. She cleared the course in a time that would have been impressive for any operator, regardless of gender. As she finished, the room erupted in grudging applause. Even the most skeptical SEALs had to acknowledge the quality of her performance. However, Maya knew that one good day wouldn't be enough to change deeply held beliefs about women in combat roles. Sullivan approached her as she secured her weapon. "Outstanding work, Rodriguez," he said, and Maya could hear genuine respect in his voice for the first time. "Your technique is solid, and your tactical awareness is excellent." "Thank you, sir," Maya replied, but she could sense there was more he wanted to say. "However," Sullivan continued, confirming her suspicion, "tomorrow we're moving into more advanced scenarios. Close-quarters combat, multiple attackers, and situation where pure technique might not be enough. I hope you're ready for that level of intensity."
Maya met his gaze steadily.
I've been ready since day one, sir. That's why I'm here.
As the day's training concluded and the SEALs began to disperse, Maya reflected on the progress she had made and the challenges that still lay ahead. She had proven her technical skills and tactical awareness, but she understood that the real test was yet to come.
Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and with them new opportunities to demonstrate that her place among these elite warriors was earned, not given.
The conversation she had overheard earlier still echoed in her mind.
Questions about her ability to perform under extreme stress, to handle the physical demands of real combat, and to function effectively as part of a unit remained unanswered in the minds of many of her fellow trainees. Maya walked back to her quarters, already mentally preparing for whatever Sullivan had planned for the next day. She had come too far to be deterred by skepticism or doubt. Every challenge was simply another step toward proving that excellence in combat had nothing to do with gender, and everything to do with skill, determination, and the will to succeed when failure meant death. The sun was setting over the Pacific as Maya reviewed her performance notes from the day. She had made progress, but she knew that earning the complete respect and trust of her fellow SEALs would require something more dramatic than perfect marksmanship scores, or flawless technique demonstrations. Tomorrow would provide new opportunities to prove herself, and she intended to be ready for whatever challenges Sullivan and the program could throw at her. The second day of advanced training dawned gray and overcast, with a thick marine layer blanketing the Coronado base. Maya arrived at the training facility 30 minutes early, a habit she had maintained throughout her military career. She used the quiet time to mentally prepare for whatever challenges Sullivan had designed for the day's sessions. As other trainees began filtering in, Maya noticed a subtle change in their demeanor toward her. Yesterday's impressive performance had earned her a measure of grudging respect, but she could still sense the underlying skepticism that questioned whether her technical skills would translate to real-world effectiveness. Sullivan entered the training hall carrying a duffel bag filled with what appeared to be modified training equipment. His expression was more serious than usual, and Maya recognized the look of an instructor who was about to push his students beyond their comfort zones. "Today we're focusing on scenario-based training," Sullivan announced to the assembled group. "You'll be facing multiple attackers, working in low-light conditions, and dealing with equipment failures. These exercises are designed to test not just your technical skills, but your ability to adapt and overcome when everything goes wrong."
Maya felt a familiar surge of adrenaline as Sullivan outlined the day's challenges.
This was the kind of training she had always excelled at. Situations that required quick thinking and adaptability rather than just raw physical strength. The first scenario involved a simulated hostage rescue in a mock urban environment. The trainees were divided into teams, with Maya assigned to a four-man unit that included Thompson, the large seal she had successfully grappled with the previous day. Despite her performance yesterday, she could sense the team's hesitation about relying on her in a dynamic scenario. "All right, Rodriguez," said Staff Sergeant Davis, the team leader, as they prepared for their turn. "We'll take point. You provide overwatch from the rear. If things get messy, stay behind cover and call for backup." Maya understood the logic behind Davis's assignment, but she also recognized it as another example of her teammates' reluctance to fully integrate her into their tactical planning. Rather than argue, she nodded and prepared to demonstrate her value through performance rather than debate. The scenario began with the team advancing through a series of rooms designed to simulate an urban compound. Maya maintained her assigned position initially, but as the exercise progressed, it became clear that the team's conservative approach was costing them valuable time and tactical advantage. When they encountered a simulated enemy position that had pinned down Davis and Thompson, Maya made a split-second decision to deviate from her assigned role. Using a flanking maneuver she had perfected during her tours in Afghanistan, she circled around the enemy position and neutralized the threats from an unexpected angle. "Where did that come from?" Thompson asked in amazement as they completed the scenario. Maya's tactical innovation had not only saved the exercise, but had done so in a way that showcased her ability to think creatively under pressure. Sullivan had observed the entire sequence and approached the team during their debrief. "Rodriguez, explain your decision to abandon your assigned position," he said, his tone neutral but probing. "The team was pinned down, sir," Maya replied confidently. "The enemy position was too well fortified for a frontal assault, and waiting for backup would have cost us the objective. I saw an opportunity to exploit a weakness in their positioning and took it." "And if your flanking maneuver had failed?" Sullivan pressed. "Then I would have withdrawn to my original position and resumed providing overwatch while calling for additional support," Maya answered without hesitation. "But I assessed the risk as acceptable given the tactical situation." Sullivan nodded, clearly impressed by her reasoning. "Sound tactical thinking. Your willingness to adapt to changing circumstances is exactly what we're looking for in these scenarios." As the morning progressed, Maya continued to demonstrate her versatility and tactical awareness. In a close-quarters combat scenario, she used her size advantage to navigate through tight spaces that larger operators struggled with, allowing her to complete objectives more efficiently. During a weapons malfunction drill, her extensive knowledge of firearm systems enabled her to quickly resolve problems that left other trainees struggling. However, the true test came during the afternoon's hand-to-hand combat scenarios. Sullivan had designed a series of exercises that would push everyone to their physical limits, and Maya knew this would be the moment when her critics would pay closest attention to her performance. "This next exercise is about surviving when everything goes wrong," Sullivan explained as he demonstrated the setup. "You'll be facing multiple opponents in succession, with minimal recovery time between engagements. The goal isn't to win every fight, it's to survive and continue fighting no matter how exhausted or overwhelmed you become." Maya watched as the first few SEALs went through the exercise. Each faced a series of increasingly difficult opponents, with the fights becoming more intense as fatigue set in. Some performed admirably, while others struggled to maintain their effectiveness as exhaustion took its toll. When Maya's turn came, she faced her first opponent with confidence. Using the same technical approach that had served her well the previous day, she quickly gained control of the engagement and achieved victory without expending unnecessary energy. The second opponent was larger and more aggressive, requiring Maya to rely more heavily on her speed and agility. She managed to overcome him as well, but the fight had been more demanding than the first. By the third opponent, Maya was beginning to feel the cumulative effects of the sustained physical exertion. Her movements were still precise, but they required more conscious effort to execute. It was during this fight that she made a crucial realization about the nature of the test she was facing.
This wasn't just about physical capability or technical skill.
Sullivan was testing her mental resilience, her ability to continue performing at a high level when her body was screaming for rest. Maya drew on her combat experience, remembering situations in Afghanistan where exhaustion had threatened to compromise her effectiveness, and how she had pushed through those moments by focusing on the mission rather than her physical discomfort. The fourth opponent was Thompson, the same SEAL she had successfully grappled with on the first day. This time, however, Maya was fighting him while already exhausted from 3 previous engagements. Thompson, being fresh, had every advantage except one: Maya's unwavering determination to prove that she belonged in this elite community. The fight was brutal and exhausting. Thompson's size and strength advantages were more pronounced against Maya's tired muscles, and several times it seemed as though he might overwhelm her defenses. But Maya's tactical awareness remained sharp even as her body fatigued, and she continued to find ways to neutralize Thompson's advantages through superior positioning and technique. When she finally achieved victory over Thompson for the second time in 2 days, the room fell silent. The other SEALs had watched a demonstration of mental toughness that impressed even the most skeptical among them.
Outstanding performance, Rodriguez, Sullivan said as Maya struggled to catch her breath. You've demonstrated exactly the kind of resilience we need in operational environments. The final exercise of the day involved a complex scenario that combined many of the elements they had trained on throughout the week.
Teams would navigate through a multi-level facility while engaging various threats and completing time-sensitive objectives. Maya was once again assigned to Thompson's team, but this time Davis approached the team composition differently.
Rodriguez, I want you taking point on this one, Davis announced, surprising Maya and the rest of the team. Your performance today has shown us that we need to trust your tactical instincts. Maya felt a surge of pride at Davis's acknowledgement, but she also understood the responsibility that came with the team's newfound confidence in her abilities.
Taking point meant that the team would be relying on her decision-making and tactical awareness to guide them through the scenario successfully. The exercise began with the team advancing through a series of corridors that branched off in multiple directions.
Maya's experience in urban combat environments proved invaluable as she identified potential ambush points and guided the team along routes that minimized their exposure to enemy fire. When they encountered their first major obstacle, a room filled with multiple opponents, Maya coordinated assault that utilized each team member's strengths.
She assigned Thompson to provide suppressive fire while she and Davis flanked from opposite sides, with the fourth team member covering their rear approach.
The plan worked flawlessly, with the team clearing the room in record time. As they moved deeper into the facility, Maya continued to demonstrate the tactical leadership that had made her successful in real combat situations. "She's calling this perfectly," Thompson whispered to Davis during a brief pause between objectives.
I don't think I've seen anyone read a tactical situation this clearly since our last deployment.
Davis nodded in agreement. Maya's performance was forcing him to reconsider his assumptions about her capabilities and role within the team. Rather than being a liability that needed protection, she was emerging as one of their most valuable tactical assets. The scenario concluded with a complex multi-level engagement that required the team to coordinate their movements across different floors of the facility while maintaining communication and mutual support. Maya's ability to visualize the three-dimensional tactical environment proved crucial in developing a strategy that allowed them to complete their objectives while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. As the day's training concluded, Maya noticed a significant change in how her fellow SEALs interacted with her.
The conversations were more inclusive, the respect more genuine, and the skepticism noticeably reduced.
However, she also understood that earning acceptance in this community was an ongoing process that would require sustained excellence rather than isolated moments of achievement. Sullivan approached her as she gathered her gear at the end of the day.
Rodriguez, I have to admit that your performance has exceeded my expectations, he said. Your tactical awareness is exceptional, and your ability to maintain effectiveness under extreme stress is impressive.
Thank you, sir, Maya replied.
I'm here to earn my place just like everyone else.
You've certainly done that, Sullivan continued. But tomorrow we're moving into even more advanced scenarios.
I hope you're ready for the next level of challenge. Maya met his gaze with the same steady confidence she had shown since arriving at the program. I've been ready since I walked through the door, sir. As she walked back to her quarters, Maya reflected on the progress she had made over the past 2 days. The skepticism hadn't disappeared entirely, but it had been replaced by a growing recognition of her capabilities. More importantly, she had begun to build the trust and respect that would be essential for functioning effectively as part of an elite team. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Maya felt confident that she had established a foundation of credibility that would serve her well in whatever scenarios Sullivan had planned. She had proven her technical skills, demonstrated her tactical awareness, and shown her ability to perform under extreme stress. Now it was time to see what the final phases of training would reveal about her readiness to operate alongside the Navy's most elite warriors. The third day arrived with an intensity that Maya could feel in the air even before she reached the training facility. Word had spread throughout the base about her performance over the previous 2 days, and she noticed more personnel than usual lingering near the advanced combat training area. Some came out of curiosity, others skepticism, but all seemed interested in witnessing what had become an unofficial test of whether women could truly integrate into the most elite levels of special operations. Sullivan was waiting when Maya arrived, his expression more serious than she had ever seen it. Beside him stood Commander Patricia Hayes, the base's senior officer responsible for special operations integration policies. Maya recognized Hayes from briefings about the ongoing efforts to expand opportunities for women in combat roles.
Rodriguez! Sullivan called as she approached.
Commander Hayes will be observing portions of today's training. We're implementing some new evaluation protocols that will help inform future policy decisions. Maya understood immediately that she had become more than just another trainee working to earn her place in the program. Her performance would likely influence decisions about opportunities for other women seeking to join special operations units.
The weight of that responsibility was substantial, but Maya had carried similar burdens throughout her military career.
Understood, sir, she replied, maintaining her professional demeanor while internally acknowledging the added pressure of the situation.
The morning began with what Sullivan described as stress inoculation training, scenarios designed to test performance under extreme psychological and physical pressure. Maya had experienced similar training during her Marine Corps career, but the SEAL version was notoriously more intense and demanding.
Today you'll be tested individually, Sullivan announced to the group. Each scenario is designed to push you beyond your normal operating parameters.
The goal is to identify your breaking point and learn how to function effectively even when you've reached it. The first scenario placed Maya in a simulated prisoner interrogation situation. She was restrained and subjected to psychological pressure techniques designed to break down her mental defenses. The exercise tested not just her ability to resist providing information, but her capacity to maintain tactical awareness and look for escape opportunities even under severe stress. Maya drew on techniques she had learned during her survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training, but the SEAL version was more sophisticated and intense than anything she had previously experienced. The interrogators used information about her background and motivations to create psychological pressure that felt uncomfortably real. After what felt like hours but was actually 45 minutes, Maya was presented with an opportunity to escape. Despite the mental and physical exhaustion from the interrogation, she successfully identified and exploited a weakness in her restraints, then navigated through a series of obstacles to reach the designated extraction point. Impressive mental resilience, Commander Hayes commented to Sullivan as they observed Maya's performance. She maintained tactical awareness throughout the scenario and recognized the escape opportunity immediately when it presented itself.
Sullivan nodded, making notes on his evaluation clipboard.
Maya's ability to function effectively under extreme stress was confirming what he had begun to suspect over the previous days. Her mental toughness was comparable to the best operators he had trained. The second scenario tested Maya's ability to make critical decisions under time pressure while managing multiple competing priorities. She was placed in a simulated combat environment where she had to coordinate the evacuation of wounded teammates while engaging enemy forces and calling for air support. Maya's experience in Afghanistan proved invaluable as she prioritized tasks and managed the chaos of the simulated battlefield. Her communication skills were exceptional, providing clear and concise information to all parties while maintaining awareness of the tactical situation. When the scenario concluded, she had successfully evacuated all wounded personnel while neutralizing the enemy threat.
Her tactical communication is outstanding, Hayes observed. Clear, concise, and she maintains command presence even under extreme stress. The afternoon brought the most challenging phase of the day's training, advanced close-quarters combat scenarios that would test Maya's ability to function in confined spaces against multiple opponents. These exercises were designed to simulate the kind of urban warfare that special operations units frequently encountered in real deployments.
Maya was equipped with simulated weapons and protective gear, then placed in a mock building filled with hostile targets.
The scenario required her to clear multiple rooms while managing limited ammunition, dealing with civilian hostages, and making split-second decisions about when to use lethal force.
The exercise began with Maya advancing through a narrow hallway toward her first objective. The confined space neutralized many of the advantages that larger operators typically enjoyed, and Maya's smaller size allowed her to move more quickly and efficiently through the environment. When she encountered her first group of hostile targets, Maya's tactical training took over. She used cover effectively, managed her ammunition carefully, and neutralized the threats with precise, efficient movements. Her size allowed her to use angles of attack that would have been difficult or impossible for larger operators to exploit. The scenario continued with Maya advancing through increasingly complex environments. She encountered situations requiring her to distinguish between hostile targets and innocent civilians, make rapid decisions about tactical priorities, and adapt her approach when equipment failures or unexpected obstacles disrupted her plans. Throughout the exercise, Maya demonstrated the kind of tactical flexibility and mental agility that Sullivan had been looking for. She didn't rely on superior physical strength to overcome challenges. Instead, she used intelligence, preparation, and technical skill to achieve her objectives efficiently. The final phase of the scenario presented Maya with her most challenging test yet. A room containing multiple hostile targets, civilian hostages,
and limited visibility due to smoke and poor lighting. The situation required her to neutralize threats while ensuring the safety of non-combatants in an environment where mistakes could have catastrophic consequences.
Maya paused before entering the room, taking a moment to process all available information and develop a tactical plan.
Her experience had taught her that rushing into complex situations often created more problems than it solved. After analyzing the audio cues, visual information, and tactical considerations, she executed a precise entry that allowed her to neutralize all hostile targets while avoiding any harm to the civilian hostages.
Outstanding tactical decision-making, Sullivan commented as Maya completed the scenario.
You took the time to develop a proper plan rather than rushing in, which shows excellent tactical maturity. Commander Hayes was equally impressed.
Her approach to complex scenarios is very sophisticated. She's clearly internalized the lessons from real combat experience. As the day's training concluded, Maya noticed that the atmosphere among her fellow SEALs had shifted significantly. The skepticism that had been present at the beginning of the week had been replaced by genuine respect and acceptance. Conversations included her naturally rather than tentatively, and tactical discussions sought her input rather than tolerating her presence. Thompson approached her as she cleaned her equipment.
I have to admit, Rodriguez, I had my doubts when this week started, he said honestly. But watching you work through these scenarios has changed my mind completely.
You bring skills to the team that complement what the rest of us offer.
Thank you, Maya replied.
That's all I've ever wanted. To be evaluated based on my capabilities rather than assumptions. You've definitely proven your capabilities, Thompson continued. I'd be honored to serve alongside you in any operational environment. The conversation represented a significant milestone for Maya.
Earning the respect of someone like Thompson, who had initially been among her most skeptical critics, confirmed that she had successfully demonstrated her readiness for special operations duty. Sullivan approached her as she prepared to leave for the day.
Rodriguez, tomorrow's our final day, and I have something special planned, he said. It's going to test everything you've learned this week, and it won't be easy. I'm ready for whatever you have planned, sir, Maya replied confidently.
I believe you are, Sullivan said. But tomorrow's exercise is different from everything we've done so far.
You'll be facing me in a comprehensive combat scenario that will test every skill you've demonstrated this week. Maya felt a surge of anticipation mixed with nervous energy.
Maya season.
Sullivan was legendary among special operations instructors, with a reputation for being virtually unbeatable in training scenarios. Facing him would represent the ultimate test of everything she had learned and accomplished during her military career. Will this be a standard training exercise, sir? Maya asked.
Standard format, but maximum intensity, Sullivan replied. I'll be using every technique and tactic at my disposal.
The scenario will test your ability to function against an opponent who has every possible advantage except one.
What advantage is that, sir? Sullivan smiled slightly. I've been watching you all week, studying your techniques and tactics. But you've been studying me too, whether you realize it or not. Tomorrow you'll have the chance to demonstrate whether observation and adaptation can overcome experience and physical advantages. As Maya walked back to her quarters, she reflected on the week's journey from skeptical acceptance to genuine respect.
She had proven her technical skills, demonstrated her tactical awareness, and shown her ability to perform under extreme stress. Now she faced one final test that would determine whether she had truly earned her place among the Navy's most elite warriors.
The prospect of facing Sullivan in combat was intimidating, but Maya felt ready for the challenge. She had spent her entire military career overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and tomorrow's test represented the culmination of years of preparation and dedication.
Commander Hayes' presence during the day's training had added an extra dimension to the significance of Maya's performance. She understood that her success or failure would likely influence policy decisions that would affect opportunities for other women seeking to join special operations units.
The responsibility was substantial, but Maya had always performed best when the stakes were highest.
As she prepared for what would likely be the most important day of her military career, Maya felt confident that she had built the foundation necessary for success. She had earned the respect of her peers, demonstrated her capabilities under extreme conditions, and proven that excellence in special operations had nothing to do with gender and everything to do with skill, determination, and the mental toughness necessary to succeed when failure was not an option.
Tomorrow would bring the ultimate test, but Maya was ready to face whatever challenges Sullivan could devise. She had come too far to be deterred by one final obstacle, no matter how formidable it might appear.
The final day of training dawned clear and bright, with visibility extending far across the Pacific Ocean.
Maya arrived at the training facility to find a larger crowd than she had ever seen before.
Word about the final confrontation between her and Sullivan had spread throughout the base, and personnel from various units had gathered to witness what many considered a defining moment for women in special operations. Commander Hayes was present again, this time accompanied by several other senior officers, whose presence indicated the significance of the day's events. Maya recognized some faces from briefings about integration policies and understood that her performance would likely influence decisions affecting the entire military community. Sullivan stood at the center of the training area, already equipped with protective gear and weapons. His expression was focused and professional, showing none of the encouraging demeanor he had displayed during the week's earlier training sessions. Today he was not her instructor but her opponent, and Maya could see that he intended to bring every skill and technique at his disposal to bear in their confrontation. Today's exercise is simple in concept but complex in execution, Sullivan announced to the assembled crowd. Rodriguez and I will engage in a comprehensive combat scenario that incorporates all the elements we've trained on this week.
Close quarters combat, weapons handling, tactical decision-making, and adaptability under pressure.
Maya listened carefully as Sullivan outlined the rules of engagement.
The scenario would take place in a multi-level facility designed to simulate urban warfare conditions. Both participants would be equipped with simulated weapons and protective gear.
The objective was to neutralize the opponent through any combination of tactics, with victory determined by successful completion of mission objectives or elimination of the opposing force.
This is not about winning or losing, Commander Hayes addressed the crowd before the exercise began.
This is about demonstrating the highest levels of tactical proficiency and mental toughness that define special operations personnel. Both participants have earned their place here through exceptional performance and dedication.
Maya appreciated Hayes' framing of the exercise, but she understood that everyone present viewed this as much more than a training scenario. This was a test that would help determine whether women could truly integrate into the most elite levels of military service.
As Maya equipped herself with protective gear and weapons, she reflected on everything she had learned about Sullivan during the week's training. He was exceptionally skilled in close-quarters combat, with a preference for aggressive tactics that utilized his size and strength advantages. His weapons handling was flawless, and his tactical awareness was among the best she had ever observed. However, Maya had also noticed patterns in Sullivan's approach to combat scenarios. He tended to favor direct confrontation over complex maneuvering, and his confidence in his physical abilities sometimes led him to accept tactical risks that a more cautious operator might avoid. These observations had been forming in Maya's subconscious throughout the week, and now she began to consider how they might inform her strategy. The scenario began with both participants entering the facility from opposite ends, each unaware of the other's exact location. Maya's first priority was to gather intelligence about Sullivan's position and movements while avoiding detection herself. She used her smaller size to advantage, moving through the facility with minimal noise while listening for audio cues that would reveal Sullivan's location. Maya's experience in urban warfare environments in Afghanistan had taught her the importance of patience in these situations.
Rather than rushing to engage Sullivan directly, she spent the initial minutes of the exercise mapping the facility's layout and identifying potential advantages she could exploit.
When she finally detected Sullivan's presence in a large central room, Maya had to make a crucial tactical decision.
She could attempt to engage him directly, relying on the technical skills she had demonstrated throughout the week, or she could use the facility's complex layout to create opportunities for indirect engagement that would neutralize Sullivan's physical advantages.
Maya chose the indirect approach, positioning herself in an elevated location that would allow her to observe Sullivan's movements while remaining concealed.
This patience-based strategy went against her natural instincts for aggressive engagement, but her analysis of Sullivan's tactical preferences suggested that he would eventually create an opportunity she could exploit. Her assessment proved correct. Sullivan, confident in his abilities and eager to bring the exercise to a conclusion, began advancing through the facility in a pattern that prioritized speed over caution. Maya tracked his movements carefully, waiting for the moment when his aggressive approach would leave him vulnerable. That moment came when Sullivan entered a corridor that Maya had identified as a potential choke point. His focus was directed forward, searching for targets ahead of him. While Maya had positioned herself to exploit an angle of attack he couldn't observe from his current position. Maya's first engagement with Sullivan was brief but decisive. Using her elevated position and the element of surprise, she achieved what would have been a mission-killing hit in a real combat scenario. However, the training rules allowed Sullivan to continue fighting with simulated wounds, which meant the exercise would continue until one participant achieved a clear and decisive victory.
Sullivan's response to Maya's attack revealed both his tactical skill and his adaptability under pressure. Rather than becoming frustrated or abandoning his aggressive approach, he immediately adjusted his strategy to account for Maya's demonstrated capability to engage from unexpected positions.
The exercise evolved into a complex chess match, with both participants maneuvering through the facility while seeking opportunities to gain tactical advantage.
Maya's smaller size allowed her to use spaces and positions that would have been difficult for Sullivan to exploit, while Sullivan's experience and physical capabilities enabled him to control larger areas of the facility. As the exercise progressed, Maya began to implement a strategy she had developed based on her observations of Sullivan's tactical preferences. Rather than attempting to match his physical capabilities, she focused on forcing him into situations where his advantages became less relevant. Maya used the facility's multi-level structure to create engagements where positioning and timing mattered more than raw physical ability. She forced Sullivan to engage her in spaces where his size became a disadvantage rather than an asset, and she used mobility and unpredictability to prevent him from bringing his superior strength to bear effectively. The crucial moment in the exercise came when Maya and Sullivan found themselves in close-quarters combat in a confined space. This was exactly the kind of situation where Sullivan's experience and physical advantages should have proven decisive, and everyone watching expected the exercise to conclude quickly in his favor. Instead, Maya demonstrated why her technical proficiency and tactical awareness had earned the respect of her fellow SEALs throughout the week. Using leverage, timing, and technique rather than strength, she systematically neutralized Sullivan's advantages and turned the confined space into an environment where her skills were more relevant than his physical capabilities. The moment that would be remembered long after the exercise concluded came when Maya successfully disarmed Sullivan and achieved a dominant position that would have resulted in mission completion in a real combat scenario.
The technique was flawless, executed with precision and timing that demonstrated years of training and experience.
The training hall fell completely silent as Sullivan acknowledged Maya's victory. The technique she had used was one he had taught countless operators over his career, but he had never seen it executed with such precision under real pressure.
"Outstanding technique,"
Sullivan said as they both removed their protective gear. His respect was genuine and unmistakable.
"You used every advantage available to you and never allowed me to impose my preferred tactical approach. That's exactly the kind of adaptability we need in operational environments."
The crowd erupted in applause, but Maya's attention was focused on Sullivan's reaction. Earning his respect meant more than any formal recognition because it came from someone who understood better than anyone the skills required for success in special operations. Commander Hayes approached them both as the exercise concluded. "Rodriguez, your performance throughout this week has been exceptional," she said.
You've demonstrated every quality we look for in special operations personnel: technical proficiency, tactical awareness, adaptability under pressure, and the mental toughness necessary to succeed in the most demanding environments.
Maya felt a surge of pride at Hayes' words, but she also understood that this moment represented more than just personal achievement. Her success would help open doors for other women seeking opportunities in special operations, and that responsibility was both humbling and motivating.
Thank you, ma'am, Maya replied.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to prove that excellence in special operations is about capability and dedication, not about physical characteristics that can't be controlled. Sullivan joined the conversation, his professional respect evident in his demeanor.
Rodriguez has earned her place here through performance, just like every other operator who has completed this program, he said. Her success today demonstrates that our evaluation criteria are working exactly as intended. They identify individuals with the skills and mental toughness necessary for special operations, regardless of any other factors.
As the crowd began to disperse, Maya's fellow SEALs approached to offer their congratulations and respect. The skepticism that had been present at the beginning of the week had been completely replaced by genuine acceptance and recognition of her capabilities.
Thompson was among the first to congratulate her. "You've changed my entire perspective about women in special operations," he said honestly. "Watching you work this week has shown me that the only things that matter are skill and determination." "That's all any of us can ask for," Maya replied. "The opportunity to be evaluated based on our capabilities rather than assumptions." The week's training had accomplished more than just proving Maya's individual qualifications. It had demonstrated that the integration of women into special operations could be successful when based on objective performance standards rather than preconceived notions about gender roles or capabilities.
Commander Hayes made the formal announcement that would change Maya's military career and potentially influence policy decisions throughout the special operations community. Based on her outstanding performance throughout this training cycle, Rodriguez is approved for assignment to Special Operations Units.
Her completion of this program with distinction demonstrates that our integration policies are working as intended. Maya felt a mixture of pride, relief, and anticipation as she absorbed the significance of Hayes' announcement. She had achieved her goal of earning acceptance into the Special Operations community, but she understood that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her military career. Sullivan approached her one final time as she gathered her equipment.
Rodriguez, you've proven something important this week. Not just about yourself, but about the future of Special Operations, he said. Your performance has shown that excellence comes in many forms, and that diversity of approach and perspective makes our unit stronger and more effective.
Thank you, sir, Maya replied. This week has been the most challenging and rewarding experience of my military career.
It won't be your last, Sullivan said with a slight smile.
You've earned your place among the best warriors in the world, and I have no doubt you'll continue to excel in whatever assignments come next. As Maya walked away from the training facility for the final time, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had overcome skepticism, proven her capabilities under the most demanding conditions, and earned the respect of some of the most elite warriors in the world.
More importantly, she had helped demonstrate that the future of special operations would be determined by merit and capability, rather than tradition or assumption.
The doors she had helped open would provide opportunities for other women with the skills and determination necessary to serve at the highest levels of military service. Maya's victory over Sullivan had been more than just a demonstration of individual excellence, but
it had been a statement about the changing nature of warfare and the importance of recognizing talent wherever it might be found. As she prepared for her next assignment, Maya knew that she had played a role in expanding the definition of what it meant to be an elite warrior in the modern military. This,